Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Harinam Sankirtana Yajna ki jai. Mahamantra ki jai. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from chapter 4, canto 5, text 8, which is again in prose. So we will read first word by word and then the shloka. Atha ha Bhagavan Rishabhadevaha Swa Varsham Karmakshetram Anumanyamanaha Pradarshita Gurukulavasaha Labdha Varai Gurubhi Anujanataha Grihamedhinam Dharman Anushikshamanaha Jayantyam Indradattayam Ubhayalakshanam Karma Samamnayamnatham Samamnayamnatham Abhiyunjan Atma Janam Atma Samanam Shatam Janayam Asha Athaha Bhagavan Rishabdeva Swavarsham Karmakshetram Anumanyamanaha Pradarshita Gurukulavasho Labdhavarair Gurubhir Anugnyato Grahamedinam Dharman Anushikshamano Jayantyam Indradattayam Ubhayalakshanam Karma Samamnayamnatham Abhiyunjan Atmajanam Atmasamanam Shatam Janayam Asha. Okay, translation. After Nabhi Maharaj departed for Badarik Ashram, the Supreme Lord Rishabhdev understood that his kingdom was his field of activities, Karma Kshetram. He therefore showed himself as an example and taught the duties of a householder by first accepting brahmacharya under the direction of spiritual masters. He also went to live at the spiritual master's place in Gurukula. After his education was finished, he gave gifts, Guru Dakshina, to his spiritual masters and then accepted the life of a householder. He took a wife named Jayanti and begot 100 sons who were as powerful and qualified as he himself. His wife Jayanti had been offered to him by Indra, the king of heaven. Rishabhdev and Jayanti performed householder life in an exemplary way, carrying out ritualistic activities ordained by the Shruti and Smriti Shastra. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Being an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Rishabhdev had nothing to do with material affairs. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashachaya dushkritam, the purpose of an incarnation is to liberate his devotees and to stop the demoniac activities of non-devotees. These are the two functions of the Supreme Lord when he incarnates. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said that in order to preach, one must live a practical life and show people how to do things. Apani achari bhakti shikhaimu sabare. One cannot teach others unless he behaves the same way himself. Rishabhdev was an ideal king, and he took his education in the Gurukula. Although he was already educated because the Supreme Lord is omniscient. Although Rishabhdev had nothing to learn from Gurukula, he went there just to teach the people in general how to take an education from the right source, from Vedic teachers. He then entered householder life and lived according to the principle of Vedic knowledge, Shruti and Smriti. In his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.10, Srila Rupa Goswami, quoting the Skanda Purana, states, Shruti Smriti Puranadi Pancharatra Vidim Vina Aikantikir Harer Bhaktir Utpataiva Kalpate. Human society must follow the instructions received from Shruti and Smriti, Vedic literature. Practically applied in life, this is a worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead according to the Pancharatra Vidhi. Every human being must advance his spiritual life and at the end return home back to Godhead. Maharaj Rishabhdev strictly followed all these principles. He remained an ideal grihastha and taught his sons how to become perfect in spiritual life. These are some examples of how he ruled the earth and completed his mission as an incarnation. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Shakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripasindubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukham Karoti Vachalam Bhangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinacharanam. Bhagavatam, 5th canto, 4th chapter, text 8. So here, some of the activities of Maharaj Rishabhdev are being described. So if we remember, in the last verse of the 3rd chapter, just bring our attention quickly to that. So it is mentioned the Lord decided, this is Rishabdev, the Lord decided to personally exhibit the method of executing religious principles as observed by brahmacharis, sannyasis, vanaprasthas and grihasthas, and also satisfy Maharaj Nabhi's desire. So consequently he appeared as the son of Meru Devi. So the Supreme Lord Rishabdev, the reason of his advent is to actually teach, re-establish these religious principles of how one should stay as a brahmachari, how one should stay as a grihastha, and vanaprastha and sannyasi. And then the other verse we were studying, second verse of this chapter. Yeah. When the son of Maharaj Nabhi became visible, he evinced all good qualities described by the great poets, namely a well-built body with all the symptoms of Godhead, prowess, strength, beauty, name, fame, influence, and enthusiasm. So I want to specifically focus on the word influence from this verse 2. And in this verse that we are discussing today, verse 8, it is more clearly described how Maharaj Rishabdev, how he spread his influence. So a great personality, like we were discussing about Bhakti Siddhanta, Saraswati Thakur, they leave their influence in the form of their teachings, of course. So their teachings, they give direction to the people in general for thousands of years to come. And then, of course, by their own personal example, also, they spread their influence, like Srila Prabhupada. Although in one sense we can say, he manifested his disappearance pastime 40 years ago, almost. But he continues to influence, all the three worlds, like as we sing in, the Guru Vandana prayers. And then another way Srila Prabhupada's influence is felt is through his disciples, through his temples, through this process of Krishna consciousness that he has given us. So similarly, Maharaj Rishabdev, if you see, he did everything. He spoke, he lived by his example, he begot 100 sons, and through his sons, he further, spread his influence. So, as Srila Prabhupada mentions, and as also is mentioned in this purport, we need examples in all walks of life, so that this Krishna consciousness movement can spread, far and wide. That is one of the visions of, Srila Prabhupada, that breaking all, socio-economic barriers, diversities of cultures, varna and ashrama, how this Krishna consciousness can penetrate into, every aspect of civilization. So he had 100 sons. Some of his sons were, great renunciate sannyasis, Navayogendras, pure devotees, Mahabhagavata devotees. Some of his sons were great Kshatriyas. So this is how he further, influenced, generations to come, like the Nityananda Prabhupada was sharing. So he also left behind him a legacy, not in terms of just his teachings, but also, like people who manifested the achar that he taught. And Maharaj Rishabdev, his teachings come later in the 5th chapter, but one of the teachings that he gave, which is very famous, was that one should not become a guru, right, or a father, or a king, or a husband, or a mother, if one cannot deliver their dependents, from the clutch of birth and death. So Maharaj Rishabdev, he did that. He showed by his own example, the perfect father, the husband. So he walked his talk, as they say. So that's what I wanted to focus on, because that is the main point here of this purport here. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Prabhupada is saying, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said that in order to preach, one must live a practical life and show people how to do things. Apani achari bhakti shikhaimu sabare. So this is from Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila, the chapter describing the external reasons of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's advent. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is saying that himself, I will come myself as a devotee, and I will show how a devotee should speak, how a devotee should, behave. So by my own example, I will influence the people in general. So that's what, Prabhupada is saying, that that one must live a practical life and show people how to do things. And this is how even Sanatana Goswami, he glorified Haridas Thakur. He said there are some people, whose prachar is perfect, who can speak the philosophy of Krishna consciousness very well. But their achar leaves a lot to be desired. And then there are some whose achar is perfect, but their prachar is not appropriate. But you, my dear Haridas Thakur, you are the perfect person, because you are the perfect acharya, and also you perfectly preach the process of Krishna consciousness. And as we hear very often, even my spiritual master says that, example is much more powerful than precept. We can speak, what Krishna consciousness is, what we do, and so on and so forth. But one devotee, even one devotee who is actually living by those principles, they can influence the whole world. Like Srila Prabhupada. One moon is sufficient. So Srila Prabhupada, who was a perfect acharya, he influenced millions of people. So this is very, very important for all of us. So whatever position we are in, this is what Srila Prabhupada is writing. If we are a brahmachari, because whether we like it or not, each one of us is an example. Somebody or the other is looking up to us. And their assessment of Krishna consciousness, we may not like it, is based on their interactions with us. So we have a great responsibility, especially when we call ourselves, Rupanugas, or we associate ourselves with Srila Prabhupada or our spiritual master or our mentors, spiritual counselors, to also live our life by their teachings. So so we are all examples, and we need examples in all walks of life. We need brahmacharis, who are showing by example what a perfect, Krishna conscious brahmachari is. And we need, grihasthas, we need vanaprasthas, we need sannyasis. So then the whole world will become Krishna conscious. Because people will say, because not everybody may be capable of being a brahmachari. But then they see, wow, I don't have to be a brahmachari. There are other viable alternatives. I can stay in my varna and ashrama, sthane shita shruti-katam tanuvan manobhir, right? So I can stay in my position. When Prabhupada says, or when the Bhagavatam says, stay in my position, not meaning like we stay stuck in our position. But externally, we may stay in our position. But internally, we are zoom, we are moving. Externally, we may just continue to stay in the varna and ashrama that we have, but internally we are attached to Krishna. So internally we are moving. So we need examples. We need examples of young children. Of course, not to put. It's a lot of pressure on them, But again, but the fact is, even small children, like a 2-year-old, he's looking up to a 4-year-old, So. And similarly, each one of us, we are looking up to each other at some level or the other. So Prabhupada is requesting all of us to actually manifest these teachings of Krishna consciousness, not just sort of speak it. So this is a very important point that is being mentioned here. So one can be a brahmachari or a grihastha or a vanaprastha or a sannyasi. It doesn't matter. Based on whatever is suitable, and if one is carefully, acting in the relationship with the spiritual master or those that are guiding on his behalf, then, all these things become clear. Which varna and which ashrama should I be in, and what is suitable for my Krishna consciousness. And one can just focus on, Krishna consciousness instead of trying to figure this out, what is suitable for me. So this is very, very important. So Prabhupada is saying one must live a practical life and show people how to do things. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, he instructed the whole world through 3 persons. We talked about this earlier also. Mukunda Sarkar, who was a doctor, he asked him to cultivate material and spiritual wealth. He was a grihastha, so he asked him to do that. And similarly, Narahari Sarkar, he was a renunciate sannyasi. He asked him to just travel all over the world and preach Krishna consciousness. And then Mukunda Sarkar to worship the deity. And the Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's associates, they are filled with such examples. There are, sannyasis like the 6 Goswamis, but then there are so many amazing, grihasthas like Advaita Acharya, Srivas Thakur, Shivananda Sen. So we need examples. So this is a call to all of us to not so much worry about, which varna or ashrama I should practice Krishna consciousness. The most important thing is to stay Krishna conscious, to become Krishna conscious. That is most important. And so here Rishabdev, he's showing by his own example. So he's the Supreme Lord himself. So he doesn't need to go to Gurukula, but even Krishna, he went to Sandipani Muni's ashram. But Rishabdev, he's a king firstly. So he's showing many, many things. He's a king, so he's showing how to be subservient to the Brahmanas, how to be subservient to the scriptures. So he accepts a spiritual master, he goes and studies in a Gurukula, and he learns from his spiritual master whatever is to be learned. And then he receives, and then as the verse is saying, he offers, Guru Dakshina. And so this Guru Dakshina is not just a one-time, we give it one time. This is basically, in a way, this is a debt that we can never repay. The gift that keeps on giving and the debt that we keep on paying. So the spiritual master is giving this gift, endlessly, and we are paying back. But we paid forward. We can't pay it back, so we paid forward. By becoming, examples, and then, the link, the parampara, it continues. So every link, it is mentioned that the chain is only as strong as its weakest link, right? So we all have to become, strong, so that because of, our, frailties, of course, we are nothing in one sense. The Krishna consciousness movement will go on. It's not like it depends on me. But, this is our responsibility, having received the mercy, to act accordingly and to speak accordingly. So Rishabdev, he is paying back, and he's paying back in various ways. He's paying back by repeating the message that he has heard from his teachers, and then also by training, like he said, like it is mentioned, he begot 100 sons, but he didn't just beget them like cats and dogs. He begot them and he trained them, like was Nityananda Prabhu was sharing the other day. It's a great disservice to just have children or have untrained, disciples. So the spiritual master is always thinking how to further train the disciples. And so from our side, we should be eager to receive the training, and cooperate. So Rishabdev, he trained his sons. And his sons, he saw that his sons had different, psychophysical nature, and so he trained them accordingly. Some he gave them the blessings to become renunciates. Some he encouraged them to become kings, like Bharat Maharaj is one of the kings. Yeah. So again, just want to emphasize this point, that Krishna consciousness is, ahayatuki apratihata. No circumstance, no external circumstance can check it. No external circumstance can generate it. No external circumstance can check it. It is something that is concomitant with the soul. Krishna prema, nitya siddha Krishna prema sadhya kabunoi, shravanadi shuddha chitte kariye uday. So this Krishna consciousness is dormant. Pure love for Krishna is dormant in the heart. And it is awakened by hearing and chanting. So this is not something to be brought from outside and put into our heart, but it's there in the heart. And again, the details may vary. For example, the woman, how they, teach the world how to be Krishna conscious will be quite different than, the men. But that's fine, because we need examples of all kinds. Needs examples. So of course, that means that, first, as the Hare Krishna movement, the foundation of the Hare Krishna movement should stand on respect. Because for most of us, when we see some differences, somebody different than us, then it's a little difficult, to respect. We find it challenging. But Krishna loves variety. And as Prabhupada is saying, we need, practical ways, practical examples of how one can become Krishna conscious. Like that. Yeah. And then the next part of the purport. So he went to the Gurukula, he studied, then he entered householder life and lived according to the principles of Vedic knowledge. So he's showing by his own example. So there is this, I think this is slowly it is, vanishing, but maybe it is still there. But there is this misconception out there that, if somebody is a grihastha, they cannot practice Krishna consciousness. It's not true. It's not true. Yeah. So here he is sharing Rishabdev how he perfectly followed, the scriptures, and he became and he showed by his own example how one can remain a grihastha and practice Krishna consciousness. The most important thing is this verse that Prabhupada is quoting. Shruti smriti puranadim pancharatram vidhim vina aikantikir harir bhaktir utpataiva kalpate. So this is very strong. Srimad Bhagavatam talks about kaitava dharma, right? So that we know, this cheating religion, how that spoils everything. But here, this verse is talking about harir bhakti, how even hari bhakti, worship unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, how it can create an upheaval in society. And if that Hari Bhakti is prosecuted without following Shruti, Smriti and Puranas and Pancharatram Vidhi, then it just creates an upheaval in society. So just briefly touch upon this basically. So our process, in Kali Yuga, the main way to attain perfection is Bhagavad Dharma, chanting and hearing. The 9 processes of devotional service. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Arshanam, Vandanam, Dashyam, Sakhyam, Atma Nivedanam. That is sufficient. That is sufficient, the Bhagavat Marga. But then, not to get too technical, but Bhagavat Marga, it is mentioned, it is also considered, the Raga Marga. Raga means when he's actually on the spontaneous platform, then one can just follow that. But till one is on that platform, like for all of us, we are following the Vidhi Marga. So Pancharatra Vidhi that Srila Prabhupada and Bhakti Siddhanta and our Acharyas, they introduced. Because we are all in the stages of Vidhi Sadhana Bhakti. So we can't, jump to that stage. So there are principles in the Pancharatram Vidhi that teaches, Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. And this is Srila Rupa Goswami. He is quoting it in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. The goal is pure devotional service. So he knows, Anyabhilashita Shunyam, Jnana Karmadi Anavratam, Anukolyena Krishna Anushilanam, Bhakti Uttama. But that is the goal, but we are not quite up there yet. So we need some ways of gradual purification. But even, of course, that gradual purification is the process of devotional service. It's not like we'll get into karmakanda rituals and do the pravritti marga. But we will follow the principles of pure devotional service, but in a regulated way, the vidhis. So that comes from the Pancharatra Vidhi, which, like for example, one is, according to the Smartha way, by birth, one is a Brahmana. But according to the Pancharatra Vidhi, it is not by birth. And according to Bhagavad Gita also, it is by guna and karma. So the Pancharatra Vidhi, it allows, no matter whether somebody is qualified or not, if they take to the process of chanting and hearing, and they become purified, then anyone can be elevated to the point of a Brahmana or Vaishnava. So Pancharatra Vidhi, it is, in summary, it is pure devotional service in the practicing stage or Vidhi stage. So it is very important. This is what he is saying, what Prabhupada is saying. Human society must follow the instructions received from Shruti and Smriti, Vedic literature. Practically applied in life, this is the worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead according to Pancharatrika Vidhi. So meaning, so one example that comes to mind, even our Goswamis, right? Like Sanatana Goswami, for example. Initially, when he received the deity, when he got the deity of Madan Mohan, right, from Advaita Acharyas, so initially the Madan Mohan deity was worshipped by Advaita Acharya, and then Purushottam Chaubey and some similar. So it came to Madan Mohan, to Sanatana Goswami. So if you recall the pastime where in the dream, the Madan Mohan deity, it came to the pujari and he said, tomorrow a sadhu will come and I would like you to give me to him. I want to be worshipped by him. Right? And so Sanatana Goswami, he was very reluctant. He said, well, I'm a mendicant. I just travel, I live under a different tree each day. And I don't even know whether I can, serve you properly. You'll not get anything to eat, or, I will not be able to decorate you, and so on and so forth. And he said, no, that's okay, no problem. I just would love to be with you. However you, are able to serve me. And so after much resistance, Sanatana Goswami, he agreed. And it is mentioned that Sanatana Goswami, he would, have his deity in the bark of a tree. And then he would, whatever, he would get, he would go for Madhukari, and he would, begging for alms. And then he would get some flour, and then he would sort of roll it up, and then he would offer it to the deity. And he said, well, can you get me some salt? I can't take this, basically. So anyway, so he was on the spontaneous platform. So that we can't imitate. But that same Sanatana Goswami, somehow by providence, there's this salt merchant. His boatload of salt, it got stuck in the Yamuna. Madan Mohan wanted salt, and the salt, boat, it got stuck. And he came, and just by meeting Sanatana Goswami, he was like blown away by his prachar and achar, mostly his achar. And the first meeting, he surrendered himself, and he said, whatever you want, it's yours. And we said, right now, I could just use a little bit of salt. That would be nice. So he said, sure. So he took some, and then he made. And then on the way back, so then the salt merchant, he was going to sell his salt, and so after he sold, he made a huge profit. So on the way back, so the meeting, Lava Matra Sadhu Sangha, just one meeting with Sanatana Goswami had such a profound impact on him. He said, wow, I've made more than my share. So he felt impelled to offer whatever extra he made to Sanatana Goswami. And Sanatana Goswami said, well, I'm quite satisfied. I don't need anything. But then he saw that, wow, Madan Mohan, it would be nice for Madan Mohan to have a temple. He's quite happy to stay with me in a tree, but it'll be nice for him to have a temple and worship like that. So anyway, so he built a temple, and then so Madan Mohan was duly worshipped. So the stages that we are in, we just have to we have to take to the Bhagavat Marga, of course, but within the Bhagavat Marga, the Pancharatrika Vidhi process, which is bona fide, which Lord Narayana himself, he spoke to Narada Muni in 5 nights, Pancharatra, how to practice pure devotional service in a regulative way. So that's what Prabhupada is saying. Because if that is not there, if we don't follow regulative Vidhi Sadhana Bhakti and just, spontaneously do something, it's just going to create, havoc in society. So many Apasampradayas, after Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's disappearance, they came because they were imitating, the high, stages of pure devotion of Lord Chaitanya and his associates without having the purity. And so many people thought that this is Lord Chaitanya's movement. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, when he advented, he faced stiff opposition. Actually, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's name was considered abominable. The people would not associate themselves with Lord Chaitanya. It was not Lord Chaitanya's teachings, but somehow or the other, people that were not qualified, but they thought they were practicing, this pure devotional service on some platforms which they were not on. And so then people thought, well, this is what is, Lord Chaitanya's teachings. So it's a great disservice. And then, and that's why even Krishna is telling Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, the first instruction is, you're a Kshatriya, you can't leave. You can't just leave the battlefield and go to the forest. And there's a famous verse in 3rd chapter, right? Yad yad acharati shresha tat tad evataro janaha. Right? So it just says that as the great men will do, the common men will follow. So of course, we don't consider ourselves great, but somehow or the other, we have received this mercy, through the Vaishnavas. Otherwise, at least I can speak for myself, just rotting in, hellish consciousness. But somehow or the other, this gift has been given. And so let me become an example. Let me, if not anything else, let me at least not misrepresent what Krishna consciousness is. Prabhupada said that even if you can't expand this movement, just maintain it. Just maintain it. Please don't expand. Especially, by diluting it and just going after the numbers. It is better to have, one moon than a million stars. So, this is... so otherwise it creates, upheaval in society, Yeah. Every human being must advance his spiritual life and at the end return home back to Godhead. Maharaj Rishabdev strictly followed all these principles. He remained an ideal grihastha and taught his sons how to become perfect in spiritual life. These are some examples of how he ruled the earth and completed his mission as an incarnation. So yesterday, maybe some of you also received, coincidentally, from Mayapur, Kalakanta Prabhu, he was speaking on this verse. One should not become a spiritual master or a king or a father or a husband or a mother. So that's what is being discussed here. So Maharaj Rishabdev, he did all of that. He fulfilled that. Yeah. So much so that verse, it places even, the spiritual master and the father and mother. Usually we have this, we denounce, this bodily, based on bodily, because of our bodily conception of life, we denounce the position of the father and mother, or the husband or the wife, husband. But here, this verse, it puts all of those personalities on the same platform, meaning that their service is the same. So whether somebody is a grihastha or a sannyasi, it doesn't matter. Their main purpose is the same. Hare Krishna. Stop here. See if there's any discussion. Yes.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for your class. My question has to do about spiritual strength. Sometimes we see personal experience, even if you follow the rules and regulations very nicely, you may not be deriving a lot of spiritual strength. So how do we, it seems like just following the rules and regulations may not always be fully sufficient. It seems like there's a missing component.
Yeah.
I'm not sure maybe you could speak a little bit about that.
It's a good point, very nice point. Today morning only we were discussing this basically. Well, we are not feeling spiritual strength. We are not feeling spiritual strength primarily because of anarthas. There are some anarthas in the heart. For example, let's say pride. Pride destroys everything. Like we were discussing the story of, the Shringi cursing Maharaj Parikshit. So Maharaj in that context was talking about. So Shringi, he was this young boy, and it is mentioned that because of Maharaj Parikshit's influence, because the way he governed his kingdom, the Shringi had some power. Of course, his father also trained him, the son of a Brahmana, so he also trained him. But because of Maharaj Parikshit's devotional service, he had that power. He's like a just 4-5-year-old boy. He had the power to curse. So Maharaj was saying in that context that pride. Anyway, that's one example. But my experience is that these different anarthas, kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya, it's the main categories. So most of the energy, may be being taken by them basically. And that's why, although we are following the rules and regulations, we are not, feeling that. That's one explanation. So so Krishna consciousness is not just behavior modification, but literally we have to look into our own heart and identify, what are the tendencies, and we should actively, work on these, on uprooting, especially pride from the heart, or envy, things like that. So that take away the spiritual strength. Yes. Yes, Prabhu.
I had a question also, but
yeah, okay.
Because we were celebrating Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's appearance day.
Yeah.
So I just read something from him where he was describing that one gets spiritual strength proportionate to the degree of his guru nishta. So even if he's performing all the regular principles of devotional service, but if he's without strong faith in guru,
correct,
then he doesn't derive much strength from those activities alone.
Correct.
So it seems like the sadhu sangha or guru nishta is the missing element. Can I ask my question?
Yeah, well, the example that comes to mind when he speaks like that is, the branch, we should make sure that the branch is connected to the tree. Otherwise, we just water is being poured on us like it's a deluge. But I don't know why. I'm not feeling anything. And these anarthas, they disconnect us. And, from time to time, they disconnect us because they take our attention away from, the lotus feet of our spiritual master or Vaishnavas. So I come into the center. So it seems like I'm still connected physically, but then I'm disconnected. So there's this intermittent, devotional service. Anyway, Hare Krishna, yeah. Yes, Prabhu.
I had a question in terms of being a good example. We see in the Gita, there may be two reasons why a person will feel the weight to be a good example. One is, as you were discussing, the weight of responsibility to the predecessors. And then the other is let's say the weight of compassion in the heart, like the Yad Yada Chariti Shreshta's verse is quoted in the context of compassion.
Yeah.
For the society, you should be a good example. So I was wanting to know, it's like a double-sided question based on this idea. When we see our parampara, wanting to receive the weight of responsibility is like a little scary.
Yeah.
You know, our spiritual masters, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
If all those personalities were alive and they were asking me, I want you to represent me, no. I would feel reluctant to receive such an order because of just knowing my own condition. And on the other hand, due to not being so evolved in consciousness, the weight of compassion isn't there to really be conscientious of the necessity to be exemplary. So I was wanting to know, when I'm in this condition, so infested with anarthas and so on, and how do I properly receive such a weight of responsibility without feeling overwhelmed, and at the same time developing my compassionate nature to feel the necessity to do so for the benefit of others.
Okay. Well, one short answer could be, I hear that in the Mayapur, when all the wonderful Vaishnavas have gotten together, the theme is leadership. So I think the first day Vaisheshika Prabhu spoke. I've been getting the transcribed lectures of Maharaj, but you can go to mayapur.com or something. So anyway, they are picking different verses from the scripture about the qualities of a leader. For example, what I understood, I didn't read the transcription, but Vaisheshika Prabhu, he spoke on 118, which I don't know, maybe you know, but he especially talked about, the best leader being the best follower. He didn't even talk about, as you're saying, this responsibility of, it seems very huge. But somehow or the other, if we can just remind ourselves to just follow, that's one thing that's very important. And then the second one is, as you saying, compassion. So, I have somehow or the other, although I was not looking for it, somehow I have become fortunate. I have received this gift. So let me share this gift with somebody else. Not in a prideful way, this is what we were hearing this morning. Not in a prideful way, because if we have pride in our heart or aversion, this is what this devotee was asking in the morning. We have this whole thing about devotees and non-devotees and, stay away from, I'm saying if a Vaishnava is averse, how can a Vaishnava, firstly, he cannot be averse. Vaishnava is as good as Krishna. So Krishna says he doesn't love anyone or neither does he hate anyone. So if you are averse to the living entities, then we can't do anything. So and then I told him, well, where would we be? If somebody dealt with us in that same way, this person is a non-devotee, I would like to stay away from him. So somehow or the other we are here because somebody chose to be compassionate, to show their mercy upon us. And of course they were not thinking, I'm going to give him my mercy basically. But they are really happy. Like this was Prabhupada said, the best advertisement is, happy devotees. So when we are happy and we are Krishna conscious, then people, they are open to receiving. They ask us, you look very happy. What's the cause of your happiness? And then we share. And we share. The prelude of our sharing is, I was also just like everybody else, but somehow or the other, I have received this, and now I'm happy, and I would like to share it with you, and please take it. This is the mood of Lord Nityananda also when they are going door to door to preach. So in one sense they are not even thinking that I'm going to uplift this conditioned soul. That's the job of the predecessor acharyas. I'm just basically the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant. Just trying to share what I have received. So when we are in that grateful, this is what Kalakanta Prabhu was sharing yesterday. Love. He was specifically talking about the Krishna house program that they have at the end. the principles that they have built it on. 3 principles. You can read it. So he was saying love, unconditional love. We have to extend unconditional love to people. So that there cannot be any pride in the heart. And it's just, we're not even, calculating that much. We're not manipulative. It's just, springing naturally from our heart. We have this invaluable gift and we want to share with somebody. Even if somebody doesn't want to take it, that's okay. Like Lord Nityananda, that's fine. You can hit me if you want. But, please consider it. So that is very important, yeah.
You've answered my question. I just was small.
Okay, yeah.
That's some of the qualities you're mentioning, for me, seem still like a little bit tall. No pride in the heart, unconditional love.
Okay.
This is a little kind of like out of my reach. So I was wanting to know, there does seem to be like an element of adhikar involved for doing that type of service in a successful way. And many of us may not have that adhikar also, and yet we have to, or we're being asked to render such a service.
Yeah, well, Lord Chaitanya's mandate is standing, is for everyone, And as you're saying, and the adhikar will come. Krishna, he will empower us. The adhikar will also come. Of course, we don't want to sort of just do things over enthusiastically. So we are always doing things under the guidance of somebody, like that. But the standing, mandate is there of Lord Chaitanya. So in that sense, he has given us the adhikar. But then, where we are working, it has to be done based on time, place, and circumstances. Those that we are working closely with, and then do something as an apprentice. Like as you're saying, I'm not, I don't have unconditional love, or I'm not free of pride. But somehow or the other, if we can stay connected, as you were saying, if you stay connected with our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, at least, in that moment, we can be, pure instruments. I mean, other things, that's not what you see, right? Usually. Then we are back to our old ways, Kali's influence again takes us over. But wow, it surprises us because because devotional service is on a transcendental platform. So somehow, Krishna and the acharyas, they elevate us for that service. And we do the service and then we're like, again back. So for us it's difficult to be situated, like 241, awake, engaged, and situated. So these are 3 adjectives. So we are not able to be situated. But then for the purpose of some service, we may be even brought to that platform, and for our purification. Like that. So it's good. And that I'm not there, that is a protection for us. If I'm thinking that I'm there, then it's a problem. But if it is in our consciousness, then it will protect us. Even when we go and, reach out to others, it will protect us. That's good. Yeah. Ashray Prabhu.
Thank you for your wonderful class. I'll try to keep this short and concise, if I can. Probably can't.
That's okay.
A couple of points that I was thinking in this discussion, because this is a very nice discussion, I felt. One thing specifically, I read that email also, Kalakanta Prabhu's class that he gave. One of the persons that he mentioned was Tamal Krishna Goswami as one of the 3 loving persons that inspired him in his Krishna consciousness. Yeah. But the first thing he says about Tamal Krishna Maharaj is that he stayed very far away from him in his earlier days because he was a very strict and scary, I guess, when he was younger. So, but look at Tamal Krishna Maharaj, so it's not like because our qualities aren't so good right now, that defines the success, as you were saying. It would stay connected to its service to the spiritual master, the qualities come. I made that connection at least with Tamal Krishna Maharaj in that case. And Prabhupada would say to his disciples, they're following my instructions. That's humility. Maybe they don't have all the qualities yet, but they'll make it.
Mm-hmm.
And then another thing I was thinking for current application with this, because it's something that it's something I'm dealing with myself, is what he was expressing about the Krishna house there was that they applied these principles for the purpose of being successful time, place, and circumstance-wise, because they were seeing we're doing the same program as we've been doing for 40 years, and people aren't attracted, so we need to change something. And then he discovered, or whatever, was inspired by these principles. We have to show unconditional, not that that's like not a Vaishnava principle or something, but we need to make it obvious to these people that we're not correcting them, for their mistakes, that we're very warm and all that stuff. So I feel like that being, it's the quality of an elevated Vaishnava also, but it may be something that we apply at a lower level in a way that's not like I actually have all those qualities. It's just like time, place, and circumstance-wise. The other more advanced devotees are saying, this is what people can deal with now, so that's what we need to show. And we can maybe follow that lead, as you're maybe indicating by apprenticeship, or taking those indications and try to work with that, even though we're not actually, unconditionally loving people and all of that. At the same time, not mixing up the two, like somehow me putting on these qualities means that's like devotional service. It's my connection. I'm serving, and that's the real thing. And so these are just things that I was processing for myself, in addition to the other point about Tamal Krishna Maharaj.
Yeah, for example, when we read Srila Prabhupada's Lilamrita, when he came to the West, how he, dealt with the first, devotees that came into Krishna consciousness. Amazing. So it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for us. So we are in similar circumstance. Not that we are Prabhupada, but the circumstances are similar. Right? So if we are really connected with Prabhupada, then, those inspirations will come. How to act in that, circumstance, in that time and place. It's not just reading Lilamrita and, it's nice read. But Krishna gives us opportunities every moment to, do that. Like some of you are all, going to the colleges, standard, Prabhupada would have, lots of kirtan and a little bit of katha, prasadam. So in a way we are trying to do the same program, but of course we don't have that purity that Prabhupada has. But we are trying to do that. Abelo, Prabhu? Raktak, you also have something, Prabhu?
Hare Krishna. That's a follow-up from Himanshu Prabhu's question. You and Jayajan Prabhu both talked about the relationship with the spiritual master, or the representative of the spiritual master. And you also spoke about connecting to Prabhupada, connecting to spiritual master. I remember Prabhupada Maharaj speaking about carrying Krishna in our heart. To the degree we can carry Krishna in our heart, to that degree it's effective, or we're empowered. So I was wondering if you could break it down a little further and take us through the process of how to connect, how to strengthen that relationship that would lead to that empowerment or effectiveness that Himanshu was talking about.
So your question is how to connect?
If you could break down the steps of how to connect, how to build that relationship and strengthen that relationship with spiritual master, with Prabhupada. It starts with Kohima Khyati Prachiti, opening our hearts and receiving advice. But on a practical level, on a day-to-day basis, how do we remain in that consciousness and before doing our services or during our services?
Well, one important principle is by associating with those devotees that are connected to the heart of the spiritual master, to the mission of the spiritual master. So by just associating with them, that's a great blessing. That's one. And then, like how it is there in the Bhagavad Gita, the amazing first chapter. I love the first chapter. So the conversation between Arjuna and Krishna. Krishna has not even spoken, but Arjuna, he is sharing his heart. He is revealing, his conceptions, which he doesn't think are misconceptions, but either way, he is revealing his, heart. So that's one practical thing that, we also, should do. And then, so thereby inviting, the spiritual master to enter our heart. Yeah. Maharaj, in one letter, he wrote to one disciple, he said, even if you give me an inch of space in your heart, I will take over. so somehow or the other, just becoming ready to just give an inch, basically. And somehow or the other, and acting in the relationship. And even if there are some, maybe some misunderstandings, which does happen with the spiritual master, so it's okay. But then, so you can either approach him directly, or you can approach somebody that you trust, this happened and how do I see this? Because that is a very vital connection. If, there is something going on in that connection, then it's an issue. It can become something very catastrophic. So the moment we notice something, address that. Then of course, Bhagavad Gita 4:34, service. So the spiritual master is extending us so many different ways to serve. So by serving him, we connect to our own heart. Because connecting to the heart of the spiritual master means what? We need to first connect to our own heart. That means we need to connect to devotional service. So the happiness that we feel in rendering devotional service. Wow, okay, this is what my spiritual master wants to give me. Then it's clear, we are not asking him for something else. He is not there to fulfill our other needs. Right? So we connect to our own heart, and then reach out. Something similar yesterday in Kalakanta Prabhu's, I don't know whether you read it, but last question, just one line answer. Mataji was asking, it could be a Prabhu also, but she was asking that my mind is somehow, all over the place. What should I do? And he just gave maybe out of, either way, I think the answer was perfect, maybe he was out of time, whatever. But he said, the issue that we are all over the place with our minds because we are not connected to our hearts. We are not feeling that happiness in our hearts. And he was saying that happiness, we are looking for happiness outside. But the happiness is inside you. So you'll find it there. That was the answer he gave. Hare Krishna. So I think we should end here. Ashraya, go ahead. Last one.
It's something that you said, and it's also something that Nityananda Prabhu was didn't discuss, but he pointed out in a class just recently. You were saying that when we're reading Lilamrita, it's not just a nice story, but we learn about the qualities of the Acharya.
Mm-hmm.
And also recently when we were reading the qualities of
Bhaktisiddhanta.
What was it? It was in one of these purports, the qualities of I can't remember the Jivanmukta.
Yeah, 8 or 9 qualities, yeah.
Yeah, so Nityananda Prabhu was encouraging, when you read these purports, you relate these qualities to spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. He said like that, then you start to learn, this is what a devotee is supposed to be like, or this is who they really are, and by meditating on those glories or whatever regularly, then we can start to imbibe the character.
Yeah, one other recommendation that I gave a devotee who was, it was impossible for the devotee to sort of just know what he was feeling or express what he was feeling So I gave him an assignment, and I don't think he has done it. But I told him to just read Srimad Bhagavatam and don't get caught up in the information, but just exclusively focus on what are the feelings of the personalities, basically. When Sutta Goswami is speaking to the sages, or when the sages are asking the questions, or when Shringi is speaking, So what is the feeling? Oh, wow. So I just told him to do that assignment. So I think at least that's the way I approach the scripture, to not just for information, but when you read what's going on, connect to the heart with the scripture. Then you will connect to your heart. Okay? Thank you very much, Hare Krishna.